Welcome, everybody, to the Revenue Problem Solvers podcast, where we try to crack the code on growing your business by tackling the challenges that keep revenue leaders up at night. I'm Carl Ortmans, and on today's episode, we're going to be diving into a challenge that is commonly discussed and a lot of times misunderstood: sales enablement. So, with me today to talk about a topic is Cory Bray. Cory and I met in the founding days of the Sales Enablement Society, which was also when we were building Level Jump software. So, we go a little ways back. And however, this is a topic that goes back for many years. Cory is an entrepreneur at heart. He's so passionate about sales. He's a partner with Blue Moon Venture Capital today. He's a co-founder and board member of Clozeloop. He's a co-founder of CoachCRM and has eight published books on sales. One of them is actually called the Sales Enablement Playbook. And if I hear correctly, he has two more yet to be released. Before we jump in, here's why the conversation matters. Imagine implementing just one strategy from today's discussion, watching your revenue metrics shift within weeks, not months. That's exactly what our goal of the podcast is. Let's talk about the revenue challenge that others have faced. How did they solve it? And I like to say success leaves clues. So we're going to highlight some of those clues for you today. So let's solve some revenue problems. So Cory, welcome to the Revenue Problem Solvers podcast, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Carl. Great to be here.
So to kick us off, can you give us a little bit of context about your world? What industries, verticals do you work with? What are the selling motions? What size of companies are you working with today?
Yeah, so Clozeloop's B2B, we call us an outsourced sales enablement company, just for the context of this. We have a tech product, we do services, and we exclusively work with B2B companies, typically folks that are selling products between $5,000 contract value and $100,000 contract value. So there's a little bit of meat to it. There's lots of moving parts, and they're either growing their teams, they're promoting people internally, they're launching new products, they're doing M&A. There's stuff going on inside the organization, and leadership's concerned about how do we either continue our success into the next year or beyond, or they're looking at the current world and saying, hey, things aren't where they need to be. Let's figure out where we need to start impacting things and execute. So that's what we typically do.
Awesome. And I know you're doing very well with it. So a little bit of catch up and hearing what you're all up to.
We're having fun, man. It's fun.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Work is supposed to have some fun to it. So let's kick off the discussion today with maybe a little bit of a hot take. And so what are people doing differently today sorry, let me tee this up.
Yeah.
The conversation, I asked Cory, I said, hey, what is one of the most successful revenue initiatives you've solved, or what's the most challenging initiative you're either working through or solving today? And you immediately jumped at this topic of the future. What people are doing today with sales enablement is not the future of sales enablement. And so if we kick it off with a little bit of a hot take, what are people doing today that isn't the future? What do you see that's fundamentally broken about how most companies approach sales enablement today?
Well, the thing that's fundamentally broken is the fundamentals. And that's the challenge, because we're in a world where there's more and more technology and there's better technology. So look, you take AI technology and try to apply it to a fundamentally broken organization, it's going to get worse. That's the problem. So if you got a world where everybody on the team is doing different things, some people don't set agendas, basic stuff like setting agendas. I'm literally doing an engagement with the client right now because their team is not setting an agenda. And obviously it's more complicated than just, hi, what's your agenda today? Just, it's like the banned version of agendas. But there's the next steps. Are we doing discovery? Are we doing the right amount of discovery? Are the salespeople actually understanding what happened in the first meeting to help them prepare for the second meeting, and then executing the second meeting based on what they should do as a result of what happened in the first meeting and the company's sales methodology and sales process, all those types of things. So and then I guess the other big fundamental thing is demos. Are we just doing presentations, or are we actually having a conversation? Just those things: agendas, next steps, discovery, demos, sales process, sales methodology, 6 things. If those aren't locked in and you start introducing scale, AI, technology to those, they get worse, and they get worse fast, and things start to break. And I think that's the big issue.
I can't disagree with you, or I can't agree with you more. And there's nothing I can disagree with you about there, is because now there's this notion that seems like it comes up across conversations. Well, we'll just put AI to it. Well, AI with a crappy database is going to produce shiny crap. The outcome is going to be that. And so maybe go back to that fundamental comment. When you are working with some of these companies, where do you start? Like, do you
Yeah.
really start at like that first meeting? Like, how do you look at the fundamentals and
Oh
where
yeah,
to
yeah,
launch
great
this?
question. Okay, but I'm a smart aleck with analogies, so I got to give you an analogy first. I'm going to answer your question directly.
Love it.
The analogy that came to mind is you got a 6-year-old, and I don't really know kids that much. I got a nephew that's like 6 months, so I don't know what a 6-year-old is. Let's assume you got a 6-year-old because that seems like pretty small but not very big.
Okay.
So he's got a hacksaw and he's trying to cut down a tree, and he's holding it, and like you can't cut down a tree with a hacksaw. This is for metal. And so you're like, here's a wood saw. And you give him a wood saw, and he's like making a little bit of a dent, but he's not really getting it, right? And they're like, oh, let's give him a chainsaw. And then he cuts his arm off.
Mm.
That's the analogy that came to mind. It's a little gruesome, I guess. That's the analogy that came to mind. It's like giving somebody that doesn't know how to use a tool and isn't equipped to use a tool, a bigger, more powerful tool isn't going to solve the problem. It's going to create chaos and injury. So I think that's one thing. Second point to your direct question, which is where do you start, is you start with an assessment.
Hmm.
Where are we today? Because my favorite Yogi Berra quote, the guy that played baseball for the Yankees back in the 50s, is if you don't know where you're going, you might end up someplace else.
Right.
And this is one of the things I always say, man, like all these people want to go hire sales enablement folks. They're like, let's go hire sales enablement people. We want somebody with a strong sales background. I'm like, bro, do you know how much sales enablement people make? And do you know how much sales VPs make? If they have a strong sales background and they've really got a lot of tenure and success and knowledge and they can do all these things you want them to do, you basically just threw out a sales VP resume and you want to pay
Mm.
them 1/3 to one half of what that person's going to make. So why would someone take that job? They wouldn't. So you end up with somebody that has a limited skill set. So they're not the best salesperson ever. And how do senior salespeople feel about somebody who wasn't the best salesperson ever going out and telling stories about what it was like back when they were selling? And now they're in enablement. And that's not always true. Sometimes people were very successful, and this is more of like a
Mm.
second phase of their career. Love those people. They're amazing. So shout out to all those folks. But the people that are really good at enablement, that's not what they're doing. They're not leaning on their sales background. They're leaning on the fact that they have a very strong analytical background and they're phenomenal project management. And
Mm.
under the umbrella of project management, we'll put change management. And the analytical thing is the key. Where are we today across strategy? And strategy could be what's our target market? What are the personas? What's our competitive positioning? What's our pricing and packaging? What's our so those are strategic things. And yeah, enablement's not going to drive that or own it, but we need to at least understand it. And if we see issues, be able to bubble them up. Systems, this is where folks often go with enablement around tech, but what's the business process underlying the tech? Are you putting a
Mhm.
process map together to show what everything's doing, what's happening, or are we just going out and doing 10 tech evaluations and beating people up on price? That's wild. And then how did management systems get put into place in addition to the individual contributor systems? So we got strategy systems, we got two more, staff and skills. Staff, who do we have on the team? What's the profile of the person? What's the job description? What's performance management look like? How do we actually hire folks? Does everybody that interviews trained on how to hire folks? Do our managers know how to hire folks? Or do we just
Mm.
interview a bunch of people and whoever the most senior person in the room gets to pick who they like? And then the last piece of skills, can people do the things we talked about earlier? Can they run really successful discovery meetings? Can they do compelling demos? Can they drive a process through to close? And can they do that without their manager sitting there and super closing everything for them? So that's
Mm.
the first place I started: strategy, system, staff, and skills, and then stack rank what all the biggest
Hmm.
problems are and start knocking them out. That's where you start.
I use a different sort of wording, but I think it aligns. Like I use people, process, performance. Let's start with the people. Do we have the right people?
Yeah.
And look at the skills, and then maybe that's what you look at. Then the process. Are the processes right? The thing that kept coming up while I was, when I was leading enablement, and actually helping with helping build level jump, was this notion of the sales enablement person is the director of broken things. And you kind of alluded to that, of just bring in somebody that can say, oh, just go and change everything. But
Yeah.
the world of sales enablement is different. And maybe that's a good question for you, because I have my own opinion. But when you think of the word sales enablement, what are the skill sets or the traits or the type of person that you go, that's a great sales enabler? What does that look like?
I just, if I could say two things, it's they have strong analytical skills and they have strong project management skills. That's it. You don't
And
need anything else. Other things
so,
can help, but you don't need it.
So do you lean towards having like a I've been rooted in this sales methodology. I've been a teacher before. I was a coach. I was in your role. How do you look at balancing that notion of skills versus desire?
Yeah, good question. So I think the specific job description can influence that.
Mm.
You like how I just said it depends without saying it depends.
I really do like how you said that.
I hate it depends. It's my least favorite word phrase in the world. So there's a couple directions you go. So if you need somebody that's consistently doing sales training, they need to learn how adults learn.
Right.
And it's not that hard. So um, there's a few
Okay.
books that are really good that you can read that will take whatever you're doing today and make it 2 to 3 times better. It's not
Mm.
going to make you somebody that's a curriculum designer. That sure, but those people are out there looking for hourly work. So if you need help, just plug them in. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's not, if you have somebody who has strong project management skills, they can say, look, we need a curriculum design to train our people on this thing or
Hmm.
market, for example. The market's not going to change that much. So you don't need a W-2 employee to do curriculum design. Go get 10 hours of consulting advice, somebody that's an expert at being a curriculum designer, put together a curriculum. Cool, that's done. Boom. Next. I need sales methodology rolled out. Cool. So you observed someone doing Medic 10 years ago? Probably not you. Go get somebody to roll out sales methodology for you. Boom, done. That's the thing. And if you look at just people in general that are successful in business, the most successful people have a common trait. They use leverage. They don't try to do everything themselves. And that's why I just hammer on analytical skills to figure out what needs to get done and how do we prioritize that, and then the project management skills on how do we execute it. And if the answer is we're going to hire this one W-2 employee and we're going to hope that they fix all of our problems, and this person is going to make like 1/4 to 1/3 of what the VP of sales makes, but they're going to have a skill set that exceeds the VP of sales across many sales metrics,
Right.
that's wild, and you're on crack.
It's it's definitely a role that I think is misunderstood by many because, and maybe this is a good question or insight from you. Where do you typically see sales enablement sit when you go in to do these assessments and you try to help companies?
Yep.
Where is it RevOps? Is it marketing? Is it sales? Where do you typically see it sit? And what's your opinion on where they should sit?
Yes.
Yes, all of the things.
All of those. So they'll sit any of those places. And I think that the only thing that really matters is that they have authority. Because if they don't have authority, they're just going to end up working with BDRs during their first 6 weeks of work.
Hmm.
And then they're going to do demo certifications for people getting promoted to AE. That's it's so common that and then if there's somebody new, any new people that work with them for the first 2 or 3 weeks, whatever, all the time, you've got this manager that's got 20 years of experience and 3 years at the company, and they're not holding one-on-ones and they're super closing every deal and they're not holding their people accountable to the pipeline. There's all these actual problems in the business, but they're not focused on those. They're focused on the easier stuff that's
Mm,
new hire because new hires will listen to anybody.
right.
Tell a new hire to make you a sandwich and they'll say, yes, sir. What would you like? You know, they'll do anything you want. So the more experienced folks, you got to, which is cool. You got to do a little pain discovery and figure out like why something would impact them, what's in it for them. And so I
Mm,
think that where it sits doesn't really matter. I think what matters is that the person that manages them empowers them to do their job and gives them the delegated authority to be able to do so. So for example, if somebody's running a specific sales methodology, triangle selling, medic, whatever, and the exit criteria in each sales stage isn't being adhered to, how do we inspect that? How do we
mhm,
coach it? How do we do a training about it? How do we hold the managers accountable to that not being happened? Is it a skill set issue? Do people not know how to do it? Or is it a mindset issue? Do we actually need to get people's buy-in and arms wrapped around how we're doing it and why? Those are the questions to be asked. And if you're reporting to RevOps and RevOps is scared to do anything that might upset the boat with the CRO, then you're not going to get any of that done, and you're just going to go hang out with the new BDR hires.
mm. Yeah, and I agree with you that you have to have the level of authority because the sales enablement really should have a broader view of the world. And I like what you talked about is who's doing the interview, even helping from the beginning, hey, if we're going to start to interview people and we're going to bring them in, what is our process? Can we make sure that
Yeah.
it's solid? Are we even auditing our our process there to make sure that we're asking the right questions? We're not asking the same thing over and over and over as you go through it. What's the build upon? And I think you talked about the build upon earlier of how do you build upon something you've already done so that it continues down. So the BDRs are doing a work. The AE should build upon what's already been established so they can continue on. So I think that that's really an insightful component. And how often is it missed? Like even you said with discovery, I'll go back to that. And before I just coming back to it, because it's topical for me. But if you go back to that notion of discovery, how often when you go to a company do they say, we're really not hitting our targets, we're missing the outcomes?
Yeah.
And I have to think, watching you present, you will go, where's discovery? Let me audit discovery. Is that where you start?
Oh, in a selling conversation? Yeah, yeah. So not quite, almost.
Okay.
Where I start is it the right company? Is it the right person in that company?
Mm.
That's where I start. Because if
And
we're talking to the if we're selling compliance software and we're talking to the assistant associate director of compliance, and if we're selling compliance software to big companies and we just took the small inbound lead, then like, it doesn't matter what you do. I mean, sure, do it for repetitions and practice, whatever,
right.
but that's set up for failure. So is it the right company? Is it the right person in the company? Yes, and then look at discovery.
Okay. Interesting. And so now and the discovery is the one that I consistently see from every company I've joined. I typically look, is the discovery strong? Are we asking the right questions? And I think if I remember you from a sales TO event, somebody said, "Hey, I'm struggling to determine." I'm going to butcher it, but I'll say it this way. The question was, how do you talk about money and know that it is the right budget and if people can do it? And I think you were like, discovery.
Yeah.
Everything goes back to discovery. If you're not asking questions, hey, and by the way, every single touch point you have is discovery. You should be
Yeah.
learning something and
Because
carrying
why
on.
haven't
So,
they bought from you yet? If you didn't still need to discover, they would already signed your contract.
right.
Like
Yeah.
nobody's actually thinking about it.
So let's talk about that, what think people are thinking about it. When you're looking at the evolution and like the topic we said is what people are doing today, what do you see are the biggest mistakes companies are making as they try to modernize their sales approach today? I know we talked a little bit of AI being
Yeah.
the do it, but what are they missing on the evolution that you see?
There's chasing shiny objects. I talked to this guy the other day. He said, we're going to buy this business case software. I was like, cool, show me a business case your team's put together in Word. He's like, oh, we don't do them yet. Okay,
Oh,
cool. So technology does not solve problems. Technology makes the solutions to problems more efficient.
hmm.
That's it. It's not going to solve your problem. It's going to make the solution to problem more efficient. If you don't understand physics, building a rocket isn't going to help you understand physics. It's just silliness. And so in this case, look, if you say, hey, I've got one guy on my team, he spends 4 hours a week putting together business cases. As a result, his close rate is 25% higher than the rest of the team. I want the rest of the team modeling his behavior and putting together business cases, but either they can't or they won't. So we're going to buy technology to do that. Cool. That sounds great to me. But
Hmm.
we've literally never done it. So we're going to buy software to do it. That's dumb.
I'm a big believer of if don't buy a software. I love that you said don't chase shiny things because I wholeheartedly agree. But
Yeah.
the other thing is if you can't write down the process of what it is you're doing and where it's in technology is only going to highlight the areas where you are not good versus
Yeah.
enabling your team to go, oh, now I can move faster. And so if we just sort of like stay on this thread a little bit, when you're being brought in or when people are asking you to do a consulting engagement as an example, what do you typically start with for them to modernize? Like, how do you look at that? Are you looking at you have too many systems? How do you look at the modernization of sales enablement today?
Yeah. Good question. So I don't really believe in cutting systems if if it's being used. So I
Oh,
I truly don't believe. I don't think anybody can give me an example. If anybody can give me an example, I'd love to hear it. That there is software or a vendor to that point that people actually use that doesn't have a great ROI.
software that exists that people actually use that doesn't have a great ROI.
If you use it, it's going to have an ROI. If you don't use it, then it won't. Sure. So then it just becomes very easy. It's like, are you using stuff or not? If you're not using it, like, why are you paying for it?
Right.
Uh, if you're using it, yeah, sure, maybe you're not using it well, but if people are using it consistently and they're using it somewhat properly, I just want to throw that out there. That's not really the main point I was trying to make. The main point I was trying to make is that from a technology perspective, I totally lost my train of thought because I went off on that. So the question
No.
is, I'll admit it. Sure, I'm a
Yeah.
human. I'm not. I
Yeah.
haven't been replaced by AI yet, Carl.
Yeah, well, we haven't, and you know what? That's a future world that we can't real like. What is it going to be? Like every single day, there's something new that shows up,
I know.
and it's hard to stay on top of it. And
Well, and
then,
I'm on an 18-hour fast because I got to go get my blood checked because apparently I'm not AI. My cholesterol's too high. Uh, so I'm drinking water and I got like no blood sugar, but that's okay. Again, I'll admit
yeah,
it. So I think
no,
the question was that what are the first things I want to look at from a technology perspective? Is that right?
yeah. So when you look at like modernizing their
Yeah,
approach, do you look at
modernize.
like, hey, you have too
Good.
many text, you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
too
So
many
not too many.
tools?
Don't care about too many unless if they're not using. But again, that's not my problem. Nobody's gonna be like, Corey did a great job because he cut three things that we don't use. That's nobody cares. Literally nobody cares. They might say, oh yay, this week, but a quarter from now, it's all forgotten. It's done. Nobody's ever built an empire. Nobody's ever become a very successful business person because they cut a couple, they cut 40 grand worth of spend in 2025. So if you think you're gonna make your mark by doing that, just dream on. Uh, in terms of the things that I want to look at are how are they doing the fundamentals? And if they're not doing the fundamentals, why? And there are very good reasons for why. So if one might be we are not coaching people on how they're executing discovery meetings, for example. Okay.
Hmm.
So do we listen to their calls? Not really. I don't have time. Cool. Show me your calendar. Show me your calendar is the best. I love show me your calendar. Show me your calendar. They show me their calendar. It looks like the Sahara Desert. I'm like, you have time, you just don't want to. Okay, so let's put that in one bucket. Second one is they show me their calendar. Like, look, I'm slammed. I literally don't have time for this. Cool. Well, there's lots of technology that can look through a lot of calls programmatically and surface up the things that we want to see. Did we
Hmm.
set a good agenda? Did we have the right people in the meeting? Did we do good discovery? Did we set good next steps? Was our talk time good? Were our monologues good? And so we just have this metadata that sits on top of the call, and we be like, okay, so now let's look at that by person. So Carl has the 35% talk time on discovery. He always sets an agenda. He uncovers pain, and he always sets the next step. Cool. Carl's good. Corey, on the other hand, has a 65% talk time, sets an agenda half the time. His meetings go over by an average of 3 minutes, and he has a calendared next step 35% of the time. Oh, wow, that's something. Let's go dig into that. And so let's use technology to figure out where we drive management and reps attention in order to go back to what are the two functions of sales enablement, analytics, project management. Let's use this for diagnostics. Let's diagnose what the actual problem is. And then let's go back and see, what is this? Is it a skill set issue? Did we fail to train the person on this? Is it a mindset issue? Are they just not doing it because they don't want to or because they don't believe in it? Or did we just hire the wrong person and we got to go back to that piece?
Hmm.
Which again, if sales management, sales enablement aren't involved in hiring, it's like rearranging deck furniture on the Titanic. Like here's this person that's not equipped to do the job. Figure it out with them.
Right. It's and it oh, how you're explaining that, and like the question that like really is top of mind as you're talking is, do you see that as a consistent issue when you go in? Is like, well, look, we know we need to do a thing, but actually we don't listen to calls.
Yeah.
Do you encourage, like, do you encourage teams to say, look, if you're listening to calls, have a scorecard, have a system? Do you try to implement a system, or is that one of the things that companies are missing? Is a system to do the intelligence or the insight to provide the outcomes?
Well, hardly anybody's systematic about it. And it's for one fundamental reason is this not fun. It's not fun to listen to 5 hours of call recordings a week. It's not fun to spend 1 hour sifting through AI's assessment of 5 hours of call recordings a week. It's not fun. So people don't do it. That's it.
Hmm.
And I think it goes back to this model. If people want to Google it, there's this guy named BJ, letter B, letter J, Fogg, Fogg. He's a Stanford professor, and he's got this diagram, and he shows basically the higher the motivation is for somebody to do something, the more friction they'll put up with. But if they're low motivated to do something, it's got to be super easy for them to do it. Otherwise, they're not going to. And
Hmm.
it sounds simple, it is, but if you look at product design and if you look at management systems out there, a lot of people don't follow that. So if we want managers to inspect calls, we need to make it easy for them to do it because nobody wants to listen to 5 hours of call recordings every week. People don't want to listen to their own call recordings. They don't want to. Some do. Overwhelming majority don't. So how do you make it as easy as possible? Having things like a scorecard is a great answer to it. And I'll touch on scorecards. I think I've written and talked extensively about this. Don't use a 1 to 5 scale, use a 0 to 2 scale. Nobody can tell the difference between a 3 and a 4.
Mm-hmm.
So 0 didn't do it, 1 did it, 2 did it well. Boom, that's it. And then what are the categories that we want to score it against? Again, for discovery call, I'd be thinking, did we set good agendas? Did we uncover pain? Did we manage resistance well? If we showed something on the screen, was it a conversation instead of a presentation? Did we set next steps? Then throughout the conversation, did we maintain rapport? Did we ask questions? Did we have good executive posture? And was our talk time and monologues reasonable? And if you just look at those things, which can all be scored programmatically now, and so you can have a report of like all of Carl's calls from this week, where did he sit across all those different things? Then at least we've got that diagnostics piece on the discovery call, fully automated, that took 0 minutes. Now I can glance at a report and figure out where I want to dig deeper, as opposed to the world before, which was I can spend 3 hours and get through 1 call per person listening at 2x.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like if anybody's listening, go back that last minute and like Cory just laid out exactly how to look at the diagnosis stage. Are we looking at the right actions? Are we looking at the right inputs? That's awesome. And the other thing that came out of that is, and maybe the question for you is, what do you see the relationship, or how do you see the relationship between sales manager and sales enablement leader? Like, what do you see that to be the most successful, or what are the traits? How do you look at that, and how do you coach them? How do you coach those two roles to be effectively best friends?
Well, the sales enablement person needs to help the sales manager get more out of their team. And I think man, I'm just beating the drum today. Analytics, where is the opportunity to get the most out of their team? Project management, how do we roll out something over the course of X days, weeks, months, quarters, years to help them get the most out of their team? Mm-hmm. So, one common problem is, hey, we launched a new product and nobody's selling it. Cool. What do we do for product training? The VP of product came in and did a slide presentation for 30 minutes, but we circulated the slides via email afterwards. That's dumb. So that's a place where enablement can jump in and really do a product launch training that probably takes like 30 days, because there's different touch points, because you want to initially introduce the concepts, you want to do some role plays, you want to get people equipped to go have the conversations, you want to listen to some call recordings of them having the conversations, give them feedbacks, you want to do some kind of certification, which could simply be a written test of knowledge certification, and then have them flip over call recording of them talking about it. Cool. Well, that's like 6 things, and they happen over time. And if you're going to do 6 things over time, you need project management. And guess who's not equipped to do that? Sales manager, because sales managers are sitting there trying to chase the month or quarterly quota, and they got 6 to 8 reps sitting there bringing them questions with deals, and they're running their meetings, their one-on-ones. They're getting nagged by their boss about where they're at with every deal, and then they've got their peers that they need to work with. They're not in a good spot to do the project management stuff. So the analytics stuff that could take hours or days, enablement can go heads down and do that. The project management stuff that needs to be maintained over time, enablement can handle that. And then sales managers can sit there and work with reps day in and day out. I think that's how you create a good working relationship.
It's awesome. And you've talked about analytics and project management a lot. And so thinking about the future of what sales enablement is going to be, and not to, because I think I could talk to you about this for many hours, but outside of analytics and project management, what are the skills you see enablement professionals are going to need in the next, even I'm going to say not even the next 3 to 5, because everything's changing so fast. Within the next 12 months, what do you see enablement leaders really needing to get strong in a skill set that maybe they don't have right now?
Well, I think on the tech side, really understanding how the tools work, because you can't say, oh, that's sales ops. I still refuse to say revenue operations, because I don't understand why the word revenue is used. We can debate that later. I think it's dumb.
Okay.
Like, how does sales ops operations? Let's just call it operations, because that's what it used to always be called. So you can't say, oh, it's operations or IT's job to figure out how the tools work. Nah, it's your job. Figure out how they work. What are all the things that it can do? And then, hey, we bought all. Okay, so this is hilarious. So when someone's evaluating tools, they set up all these vendor meetings, they have all these conversations, and they want to talk about ROI, and they want to talk about price, and they want to understand all the things that it does, right? So the two biggest things they want to do when they're evaluating tool is they want to figure out what is the ROI going to be and what are all the things that it does, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen somebody do a ex post, like 1 year out ROI analysis on what was the ROI we actually achieved. I'm not saying nobody's ever done it. I've never seen somebody do it. And the other thing that I never see is people reading the release notes of all the new stuff that people are launching in the products. All these vendors, they put them out there like, here's our release. Salesforce does 2 or 3 a year. A lot of tech companies they'll do continuous deployment, and they'll do a release note every 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever their cycle is for that. So we spend all this time and energy when we're evaluating something for the first time, thinking about ROI and what it can do. But then we don't calculate what the ROI is we actually achieved. And then we don't read the release notes to figure out what are the new things they're actually putting into it and then tying that into our business. And so this whole evaluation of tech just becomes playing house and busy work. And I don't get it. I don't understand it.
You talked about ROI, and that actually was the very first conversation of the podcast that I had was with Jonathan Tice. And one of the things he did is he reimagined and rebuilt his entire sales and marketing team so that it was value realization. Did we do what we said to the customer, and did they get the value out of it in a period of time? Now
Yep.
that was a whole different conversation, but it ties way back. But anyways, and the other thing that comes to mind is you're talking. There was this one VP that I worked with, and he said, I'll never trust an ROI from somebody I can't fire.
That's funny.
And that was it. That was an interesting way to look at it because somebody has to somebody has to own the problem, own the platform, own the solution. But if nobody owns it, then you're going off of a number from an external source and saying we're trusting that.
Well, I think the issue there is it goes back to what I said about you get an ROI if you use it. So they don't trust that people are actually going to use it.
Hmm.
That's the trick because I think the numbers are the numbers, but are people actually going to use it? And in a sales conversation, is the salesperson or the organization that's selling representing how easy it is to do the things that the prospect wants to do?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it a smoke and mirrors demo where it's like, look how easy it is? And then I won't use the company name, but there's a famous business intelligence company that had like tons of back-end Java engineers that had to manually set your stuff up. Or like, apparently there is one of the popular forecasting tools. If you set it up, you got to like have this heavy implementation process. I'm like, forecasting is fourth grade math last time I checked. You know, that's interesting.
Hmm.
We'll just say
Yeah. So as we sort of look to sort of let's move to wrap up. We've been chatting for a while. And so one of the things that I typically say is everybody likes new, nobody likes different. And doing both at the same time can cause friction or uncertainty.
yeah.
For a sales or revenue enablement leader listening to this right now who realizes, you know what, I listened to Cory, I'm behind the curve. What's the first thing that they should change or look for on Monday morning to make their enablement function stronger?
I would just go on a assessment spree and say, just take it on yourself. I wouldn't even tell other people you're doing it. Just where are the gaps and get granular with them. And I think that's one of the other things. Like, don't feel like you got to come back with 3 recommendations. Yeah, sure, eventually, but start with just like, what are all the things that are going wrong? Let's look at. So here's what if I was doing this in 45 seconds, here's what I would do. I would flip open the CRM and I would look at the pipeline report. And I would say, are our deals in the right stages? Do they have next steps? Do they have discovery notes? Because if the answer to any of that is no, then that's not good. Then I'd go still in the CRM and I'd look at the metrics and I'd say, all right, so what is our for each rep, for each team, for the company, kind of all 3 of those levels, which again, tech can do all this for you, so it's not that hard. But if you don't know how to use the tech that you got, then it's really hard. Uh, what are our win rates? How long are our sales cycles? What is our stage duration? So how many days do we stay in each stage? At what stage are we losing deals? And so are some reps or teams losing deals later versus disqualifying earlier? I'd look at, is there any commonality around market segment? If we have the intel, are we getting to the right person in these deals? Are we discounting? What's our discount rate? What's that look like across, again, rep team? company. So those are some things to look at. I know there's more. So that's that side. And then the other piece is I'd go listen to calls and I'd say, all right, what are the different types of calls people have on our team? So they probably have cold calls, inbound qualification calls, discovery calls, maybe some kind of demo or needs analysis. They probably got a proposal call. And let's just say that. Okay, cool. Let's go snag 10 or 20 of those each and let's listen to them. And in each of them, do we do what we need to do? Did we set a good agenda? Do we have the right people there? Did we do good discovery? Did we manage resistance? I already went through all that earlier. Rewind 10 minutes, you'll hear that. And then coming out of that, I'd go do interviews with everybody. And it doesn't need to be some big formal long-winded thing. It could be 15 minutes. And so based on all the things that you observed, and we've only looked at two things so far, right? I'm not boiling the ocean. Mm-hmm. What we observe in CRM, what we observe in the calls, to have 5 questions for each person. Drum something up. Have them open-ended, have them specific, whatever. I don't care. Coming out of that, you will learn so much and you will have achieved phase 1 analytics. Then you can figure out what are we actually going to do, and we'll roll into phase 2 project management.
Simple is very hard.
So yeah, but it's not hard. Like I could do that. You give me any B2B company, it's 10:41 right now. I could have that done by 4 o'clock today. It's literally not hard if you're good at it. If you're not good at it, then man, I'm really not trying to be mean, but like if you can't do that, like what are you doing? It's not hard.
But the more simple you make things, the harder it is to figure out how to actually get it, which is an interesting
but it's
situation.
Literally not. That's the problem, man. Like, and okay, so here's the funny thing. Carl mentioned like that dude. So we technically have 2 companies. They're kind of just one, whatever. Long story, spin out, merger. I don't even talk about legal. Like I sell stuff every day. Like I build product. And I do this because our business isn't just services, it's tech and it's consulting on the tech. So we'll do like implementation of sales playbooks, onboarding programs, certifications, assessments, all those types of things. And so I'm not just saying this stuff theoretically, I literally do it. And it's actually objectively not hard if you're good at it. And if you're not good at it, go figure out how you work for somebody that's really good at it and get really good at it. Because this idea that a lot of people have of like, I stopped learning stuff when I graduate from college, and then I just kind of go with the flow and I gain experience, and then magically this years of experience is going to translate me into me being good at things, ain't going to happen. Because lots of people are getting really good at things because you got your little AI assistant buddy. The level of expertise that people are able to achieve with their little AI assistant buddy sitting next to them is wild. And it greatly surpasses any book that you used to read to get a master's degree. So that's the future. It's wild, man. It's gonna be good. So if you want to really crush it and get great at things, I would just say, figure out where you need to go, work hard, the tools and resources out there. And if you don't, like, pot's legal most places, have fun.
Yeah. Well, and it's the other thing is you said, which I think is really important, get a great mentor. If you don't know, get a great mentor because you can't buy experience. You just have to experience it. So, but anyway, so let's wrap up. Thank you, Cory. This was super fun. That wraps up another episode of the Revenue Problem Solvers podcast. I want to thank you, Cory, for sharing these invaluable insights today. And obviously, there's strategies you can put into action immediately. If you found value in today's conversation, like the episode, subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen, or if you have feedback, tell me. I'd love to hear from you. Or if you want to be a guest, let me know. Thank you for investing your time today. Remember, success leaves clues, and every revenue problem has a solution. Sometimes you just need the right conversation to find it. Until next time, it's Carl here with Revenue Problem Solvers, helping you turn obstacles into opportunities. Thanks for being with us today.